Ellijay Church of Christ here? Okay, I didn't think so. Since I didn't see him, I asked Mark Milliken from our newspaper if he would mind leading our invocation tonight, and he graciously agreed.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, a good case will be made that our society and culture is very troubled today. And I know that you have a plan for each one of our lives, for each one of the lives of the children in this school system. And Father, our prayer tonight is that you would give wisdom to this school board, to the superintendent, to everyone who's here tonight, in each and every way, each and every day. Father, help us to train up our children in the way that they should go. We pray for them wisdom. We pray, Lord, for our law enforcement here, for our SROs who are in the school system. We ask you to help them to be vigilant and alert and give them wisdom. We're just praying for wisdom tonight, Lord, and we thank you that you will supply it in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Okay, we have Ms. Michelle Stover's class from Ellijay Primary. Ms. Stover's on it. Okay, so
it's Maggie.
Okay, so we are going to support her and lead the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have some presentations and recognitions tonight. Ms. Kim Cagle, Assistant Superintendent, is going to share those with you.
Our first recognition tonight is some of our cheerleaders that we're very proud of. If their coach Naomi Esparza would come up and recognize them, please. They were chosen by the Georgia Association of Coaches. The All-Star Region game. She'll explain to you. And get those girls up here so we can give them their certificate.
So we had 3 girls this year that were selected for part of the, like she said, the Georgia Coaches Association All-Star Game. It's a little bit different than with some of the other sports, and so they have to submit a tryout video, and they have to do a couple different things that they require and go through a process, and then those videos are submitted to a committee, and the committee reviews those and then picks sort of the best from the North area regions and from the South regions, and then those girls go and cheer at an all-star game a couple days after Christmas. And so we had 3 of our girls this year be selected. We have the senior Chloe Sharp. We had junior Emma Henderson. And junior Rhiannon Henderson.
Congratulations, girls. And next I want to introduce Carla Foley, who is our high school principal, and she's going to introduce our STAR students and STAR teachers.
So for those of you that don't know, our STAR students are chosen, they're the students who have the highest SAT score in one sitting. And this year we have dual STAR students. We have 2 students score exactly the same SAT score, same math, same reading, same everything, which is the same. So hopefully they can so this year our 2 STAR students are Ethan Romanek and Houston Jones. And our STAR students get to select their STAR teachers. One of our STAR teachers cannot be here this evening is Coach Rodney Thurman. And then our other star teacher is Dr. Renee Ford.
Mr. Chairman, consent agenda items are listed for the board's consideration at our regular monthly meeting on Thursday, February 14th. Subject to the wishes of the board, we can add or remove items from the consent agenda as needed in preparation for that meeting. On the consent agenda are the minutes from our January work and executive session and our regular session. And we have some out-of-state and overnight field trips, but no fundraising on those. All right, that brings us down to the superintendent's report, the first area of our strategic plan, which is academic achievement. And we have Ms. Foley and her team with us tonight to make a presentation for Gilmer High School. So Ms. Foley and Ms. Boyette. Or is it just Ms. Foley? Oh, okay.
We are, as everyone knows, we are participating in an L4GA grant to help improve literacy across the district. And at the high school, that can look kind of different as to what we're doing at there and how we're trying to improve our students' reading. In the fall, we took a reading inventory assessment, and that assessment showed that only 44% of our students were reading at a proficient or above proficient Lexile level. Lexile has to do with like the grade level, it's a numbering system. And so adult books are in 1200 Lexile. So we're looking for our seniors to be to have Lexile levels above that 1200. That level, only 44% of the students at the high school are reading at a Lexile level of where they should be reading, and that's concerning. So we've made our school goal this year to improve our percentage of students reading at their appropriate Lexile level to be at least 50%. So we are implementing a strategy called reciprocal teaching. And so Ms. Boyette, our assistant principal, as part of the curriculum, has invited some teachers and students tonight to share with you how they are implementing the strategy at Gilmer High School.
We're going to take longer than 5 minutes. I hope that's okay. All right, so tonight we're going to start with a quote that I think is really important. I'm going to go ahead and read it, even though people don't like reading from PowerPoints. But learning and teaching should not stand on opposite banks and just watch the river flow by. Instead, they should embark together on a journey down the water. Through an active reciprocal exchange, teaching can strengthen learning how to learn. And I think that's really important. So show of hands, how many of you remember sitting in high school and having the teacher teach and the student said quietly learning? Guys, say some of you are lying to me because I remember doing that. And I think even I've been in Gilmer County a little over 10 years, 12 years, somewhere along that. I lose track. I remember when I first started teaching, I felt like there was still a lot of teaching and there was a lot of learning. And in the past 10 years, the whole system, the whole state, I think the whole country is going to where we have we have active learning, students are engaged, and students are in charge of teaching each other. And the strategy that we use really allows students to teach each other and work together. So just think about this quote as we continue through our presentation. I have some learning targets for our board members and for everyone in the audience. I think they're a little hard to read. By the end of our presentation, we would like you guys to be able to explain the process of reciprocal teaching. We'd like you to understand why reciprocal teaching has a high effect size. And we would like you to be able to discuss how GHS uses reciprocal teaching in the classroom. And you'll have a ticket out the door when I'm done. So the reciprocal teaching is an instructional strategy. It allows students to take ownership of their learning. So they're taking on the role of the teacher. So the teacher is really just facilitating instruction. The teacher's not standing at the front of the board teaching at the students. Students are normally paired up in groups, pairs of 2 or in groups. The students are leading discussions, they're encouraging questioning, they're reading and saying, I don't understand what I just read, what did you understand from that passage? What did you get out of it? Or, I don't know what this phrase means, let me write it down so we can come back to it later. Questioning is greatly encouraged. It's okay for kids to make mistakes. It's okay for kids to not know the content and ask each other questions. And we also, the kids do this, we see them developing skills that those great readers already have. So some of our second, third, and fourth graders may already have these skills, but some of our high schoolers do not. So reciprocal teaching allows them to get those skills and gain confidence in their reading. So the 4 strategies that are used within reciprocal teaching is that students are going to predict, they're going to question, they're going to clarify, and they're going to summarize. All of those will happen during the activity. All right, so why are we doing this? I think it's important to look at, we didn't just pick a strategy out of a hat and say, that sounds awesome, we can implement it, it'll be easy, our teachers can do it. We looked at the research. If you don't know who John Hattie is, you probably need to buy his book, Visible Learning, and read it. So effect size, so 0.5 effect size means that you have a pretty good gain. Students are going to make lots of achievement for a 0.5 effect size. When you look at 0.8, that's significant. So the academic achievement that comes with a 0.8 is significant. The effect size of reciprocal teaching is 0.74. So if we're implementing this classroom, these in the classrooms, we should see great student gains and student achievement. It's also very important when you look at the research, a lot of times strategies that are used in the classroom will only use the left and right sides of the brain. When students are reading in reciprocal teaching, they're having to stop, they're having to question, they're having to predict, and that allows them to use the frontal lobe of their brain. So the frontal lobe of the brain is responsible for your reasoning, your questioning, and it also stores that long-term memory. So if students are activating more parts of the brain through reciprocal teaching, they're more likely to learn and to achieve at high levels. So that's why we decided to use reciprocal teaching. Here's another visual. If you look, reciprocal teaching is at the very far right and high impact. All right, classroom implementation. So reciprocal teaching, your mind automatically goes to what subject? Reading, literacy, what subject? Language, good job. Language arts. But we're actually implementing this in all classrooms. So we have literature, social studies, science, math, CTAE, foreign language, fine arts, PE, band. And you think, how on earth is band going to use reciprocal teaching? Well, some of our students are going to tell you in just a minute. So right now I'm going to invite the students up. They're going to show you different ways reciprocal teaching has been implemented into the classrooms that they're actually in and kind of discuss what they think, what their benefits were from it. So first up.
Hey everybody, my name's Elizabeth and I'm in 11th grade. And this is Kenneth, he's also in 11th grade. In our 11th grade literature classroom, our teacher had us do reciprocal teaching to help us understand what we were reading better. She used the 4 categories of questioning, clarifying, summarizing, and predicting. And within those categories, we had to ask very complex questions that had to do with the story, things that weren't clarified when we first read it the first time. We had to predict what was going to happen based off of the title and the author. And we had to summarize using races, which is another strategy we use to write. And we had to and clarify the questions we had and things that we were confused about. So it was really great to be able to read a difficult text and take what we read, ask questions about it, and clarify without having to constantly ask our teacher for help. And it really helped us understand what was going on in literature by ourselves.
I'm Jalen. I'm also in 11th grade. My example was in U.S. history. We were learning about, one of the subjects we learned about was World War II. And the paper I did mine on was the impact that Rosie the Riveter and Uncle Sam propaganda had to do with World War II. And we did a graphic organizer chart with hours and filled it out, and we predicted what we thought was going to happen. We asked questions as we were reading that we didn't really understand, and then we clarified and went back and went with our group and discussed what we thought the answers were to the questions and how we learned from that. And then we summarized last and talked about what the impact was from that. And I think this really helps because it helps you to focus more on what you're learning and to get out of the box and kind of do it by yourself and not have to really rely on your teacher as much as you normally would.
So let me ask you a question. How did it impact? How did Rosie the Riveter propaganda, how was it?
Well, Rosie the Riveter was impactful and empowered women to really step outside and join the workforce while Uncle Sam had to, he was getting all the guys to go to war, so they had to help and get the women to join the workforce to help the women. Thank you.
Sorry, that's what it was.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so I'm Glenna Oroz,
And I'm Tori, we're both freshmen.
and in both of our science classes that we've taken, we've done a similar concept of where you get an article about what you were learning in that unit or in that lesson, and you read it, and it kind of focuses more on the more important things that you need to take out of this unit, and the teacher wants you to predict what you think you're going to learn about this part of the unit from this packet and this article, and then as you read, she wants you to write down questions about like what you think, or like
Just any questions that you have about the article, if you may not understand from the text that she may need, or the teacher may need to explain later on for you to be able to understand for the upcoming test.
And then in the clarifying parts, it will usually, you can find things in the text that will answer your questions, and you can write those down just to make sure that you have been clarified about what your questions were and everything in the article. And then after all of that, and after the teacher has clarified all of your questions, you would then summarize what you have learned in the article and the packet, and what was really important and what you got out of this reciprocal teaching.
Hi, my name is Grant. I'm a junior currently, and this particular assignment was given in my first French class, and we were assigned by our teacher to predict upon a certain passage we were given. It was completely in French, and we had to read the title and predict what might happen in the story, and then we were asked to summarize later on and ask questions about it that maybe a teacher would be asked, and then if there were any words that we didn't understand, we just wrote them down and we looked them up later. And after this, we took a quiz on it, and whenever we took the quiz, we kind of we took our summary and any notes that we had, and we put it on the poster. And we were broken up into groups, and whenever we did each part, each person chipped in on each part, so it helped every student understand the entire passage in a more comprehensive manner. And I think that reciprocal teaching is really good about helping the students learn from each other and kind of promote the leadership in certain groups and let people be more effective in their learning.
How many people were in your group?
I had 4 in this particular group, and there were probably about 4 groups.
How did you do on predicting the story of the title?
We were pretty close on what was happening. It was a little bit, this title itself was a little bit vague, but we kind of guessed what was happening.
My name is Jesse Hernandez. I'm a 9th grader. So the example we were giving to my class, Ms. Rutter's Family Consumer Science, which is a state CTAE class, and it was about an eating disorder. And so we were giving her perspective. So we were giving a list, and we were supposed to diagnose her. So we were giving, it was like something with anorexia. This girl was not eating, and we were just gonna diagnose her and see what was up. So we were giving a passage, and we had to predict. We had to question, and we had to clarify, and then we had to summarize at the end. And we had a poster, and we had to put sticky notes like Ms. Rutter asked here. And the way this helped me out is because I'm going into the medical field, and this is going to help me with the patients I'm going to have when I'm older. When someone goes in the ER, what symptoms are they showing? What can I do? What do they need? And not only does this help for my future career, this also helps for my school career, because when I was growing up back with the dinosaurs in Mexico, we did not have this process. All we had was to write down a paper and turn it in. So this process really helped me and a few other students a lot.
So we did shake hands. So Jesse was holding this as he was speaking, which is an example of where we began. And I think Boyette's already mentioned this, but one of the great things about this is it allows the students to work through their own process. It's also a super easy way for us to differentiate pairing those who may not do these things naturally with those who do, or even like slowly building them up to where they do it naturally. And that's what I brought an example of here. So at first they have a graphic organizer with extremely specific questions. I actually have these projected on the board. Things like what is implied in the text, or even more simple, what might happen next, just that simple. And as the students get confidence with what does it mean to predict and clarify, and I want to say about the clarifying, I have yet to have a group that could not figure it out on their own. It's amazing what 4 brains can do when there's a word, and they want to ask you or they want to pull out their phones and you encourage them to go back to the context clues. It seems like almost always they can get there on their own, which is, I think, builds a lot of confidence. And as that confidence builds, we slowly start to pull away some of the scaffolding. So this is the first example that I have from my classroom, hopefully more to come, of not using a graphic organizer at all. So we got them first comfortable with the questions, super simple, and then they didn't need the questions anymore. They could do the graphic organizer without the questions. And then as that became second nature, this most recent time, actually like last month, end of January, for the first time we tried it, they didn't get anything at all except a text. And you know, I reminded them what have we done in the past, et cetera, and just gave them a stack of sticky notes. Didn't tell them they had to have a certain number, anything of that nature, and when we finished, they brought them up, put them on some kind of chart. Sometimes we do it just right on the whiteboard. I think one thing this does an excellent job of is it doesn't put any pressure on anybody. You don't have to like sign your name at the bottom of your sticky note. Maybe your question was silly to another kid, but anyways, put them up, and then a student can lead a discussion, or as someone mentioned, we can use the RACES model to, you know, what are the benefits of probiotics, and they can use the text right there in front of them. And slowly but surely, we develop a little bit more of a natural process of reading, analyzing, comprehending, higher order thinking, and giving a written, thought-out response.
I got a question.
Yes.
Just a general question. Everybody's been saying reading facts.
Sure.
Or reading story. Now, when you're in that group reading, is it like one person's reading aloud and everybody else follows, or everybody's reading to themselves a certain part, or how does that work?
In my class, obviously in a CTA classroom, we have a huge diversity of ability levels. So we group them kind of so there's some, you know, really excellent readers and really. So we do actually read out loud, and I encourage them to choose 1 to 2 places where they all agree that they'll take a pause and have a conversation. And those are the moments where you can really hear them getting down to the meat of it, determining what these words mean that maybe they never heard before through productive conversation. So having a stopping point in mind, I think, also gives them, it doesn't feel like somebody just handed you 4 pages that you have to sit down and read alone. You get to stop every 5 minutes and discuss with people who, you know, we tell them in the beginning, this group is, we have a goal together. It's not 4 individuals, it's a group working together towards a common goal.
And that changed, oh, go ahead.
There's a couple of websites that we use that have a lot of nonfiction text for across all content areas. And the texts are based on Lexile level. And so teachers have the students' Lexile level, so they may group students together based on their Lexile level, where the students would be reading independently, or like Ms. Rudder does, they have a very high level text and have a student in there that can read that text, and they all have a copy of it that they can look at.
Again, we're back. But this time we are doing fine arts, and yes, it's band. Kenneth and I both play trumpet, and in playing trumpet and being in music, we don't read and write a lot. So Mr. Fluker, our band teacher, decided to use reciprocal teaching to see and how much we knew and how much we knew about specifically the branches of the military. Like,
Make sure you turn that to me.
okay. But in this type of reciprocal teaching, we had the 4 basic parts again, and what Mr. Fluker did, he separated us into groups outside of our sections, and he gave us a song. We had little excerpts from the song that we had to piece together, and we had to predict, once again by the title, what it was going to be about and what we thought it was going to have in it. And then we would have some clarifications we needed to make within the text, like some lyrics were confusing, so we'd write them down. And then afterwards, we would simply just discuss them and make sure we all had an understanding. And then afterwards, to further our knowledge, Mr. Fluker had us write some things down that we wanted to learn more about. And then we would summarize each of the little stanzas that we had to read, and then we would share what we had for the class. And this really helped us understand why we have Veterans Day and what these people do for our country. And it was very effective and very eye-opening for all of us.
So can we both play that?
Yes, we can.
So we're the last presentation that y'all have to listen to, but in this presentation, mathematics is not the class that you would exactly think that you would be able to do this in, because we've used a lot of examples of articles. But with math, we just use word problems, because that is what Algebra 1 was. It was just a bunch of word problems you had to read and then figure out the equation in. So in this example, this poster that I'm holding is an example of a kid who did not exactly get it as well. And so in his summary, he stated after the teacher had went over the lesson that it says they solved the equation for y, not what we did. And this kid just explains that in reciprocal teaching, he may have not have done it the easiest way in the beginning, but then after the teacher had summarized and they had went over the unit as a class, he was able to understand the better way, even if it wasn't from what they learned, after they had learned in a group. So this is just another way that we use it in math. And then this would be like the example of a kid who understood it better in the beginning, coming from a higher level. So this was just an easier way to show the differences between what a higher level and a lower level would look like, but it's still the same thing and you would use it either way.
And reciprocal teaching also allows the teacher to step back and evaluate what the students, what they need to work on, and what they need help with.
Alright, so if that doesn't convince you enough about what we're doing, I'll let you know that Jesse right here heard me talking to a teacher Thursday afternoon. He said, "Why can't I come present at a board meeting?" I said, "Why can't you?" So the rest of them got involved, and today they had about an hour to figure out what they were going to do. And so no prompting. So I have one more thing to show you, and I promise we'll be done. But I created a video just to make sure that you guys really understood the testimonies going on in our building and how teachers and students Is that too loud?
Yeah, you haven't hit play yet.
No, sorry.
you in your class?
It reinforces the use of appropriate vocabulary and science. Also, the kids sometimes describe things differently than I would in terms that another student would understand. I don't speak teen all the time, but it's great to see some of the constructive arguments that come out of them, and it helps pull forward any misconceptions.
It helps me because it gives us another way to learn stuff and memorize it, not just reading the passage and going on to another subject.
Reciprocal teaching to me, I feel like it helps kids understand what they're reading, mostly for stuff where it's hard to follow along, like reading Macbeth in my last class. Helped you understand the topic more and able to talk to the students better.
So I love reciprocal teaching because it helps me, for example, in a subject in math. I remember some strategies of pointing out what the strategies we use in a math problem, and then whenever we have a math problem in real life, it shows us that we can use that, and then we can remember some memorization of the strategies we use in math to solve a problem. Reciprocal teaching to me is basically letting students have a way of understanding things without their teachers having it with their hands, which is going to prepare us for college and life after. Reciprocal teaching is really good for our students because it makes them more active readers and it gets them really involved in the reading process.
Hi, I'm John, and when I use reciprocal teaching, I like using art because it really helps me learn how to communicate ideas that I wouldn't typically do in a class like art. Since it's been implemented, it helps me have a further and deeper understanding of a class like art, although it's not a class like language arts where you're typically expected to learn how to write.
Hello, I'm Ashton. I'm a sophomore, and I've done reciprocal teaching mostly in ELA. Reciprocal teaching helps me better understand the passage we're reading and helps me develop communication skills between fellow students. I think it's a very good benefit in the classroom, as it is more of a social thing than rather just sitting at your desk and reading than writing a response to it.
Reciprocal teaching really helps to see which students grasp the concept and which need differentiation.
It benefits the students in multiple ways. One is it definitely makes sure we have more involvement. Some of the kids that might in group activity not do a whole lot would now have to be involved because they have a specific role in reciprocal teaching. Whether it be their job is to guide or whether it be to interpret or anything like that, it makes it where you definitely have more involvement. Other ways that it might help is it definitely causes them to do self-research. Or sometimes in the articles that I give, it's not just the article that I'm expecting and I have expectations about. It then requires them to go another level, which requires them to use their own ability to use the internet and to hunt some other information down. And both of those, I think, are good advantages of reciprocal teaching.
My name is Hannah Adamson. I'm in the 7th grade, and reciprocal teaching is really helpful whenever you have to be in a group and communicate to others, and it'll help you go back and look for answer.
So one reason that reciprocal teaching is good for us students is that sometimes when a teacher explains something or teaches us something, not all of us understand it. So when us students get to actually teach it to other students, we get a different perspective, everyone understands it.
Reciprocal teaching, it allows you to be more hands-on with your writings and your learnings, and it also allows you to be social and kind of understand your classmates and how they learn and how they understand. I really enjoy the reciprocal teaching method because it helps all of us understand what the teacher is trying to convey to us much easier than the teacher just talking something straight out of a textbook. So I really enjoy in that manner so we can all understand it much easier. Hi, I'm Ash Davis, and reciprocal teaching has helped me and my fellow peers by helping us better understand the material and enhancing our learning through.
So I love using reciprocal teaching because it's the best way to differentiate. It's the best way to focus with individual students and help them grasp knowledge using primary text, secondary text. I just enjoy seeing their eyes light up when they actually understand something from somebody else.
So I can't promise that everyone at GHS is in the river together, but we are definitely on our way. So have any questions for anyone, any of us?
Does everybody enjoy it like they do?
Yes. It's fun to go into classrooms and see students engaged and having those conversations, and they really rely on it.
Better as a group to understand something and learn something instead of one person doesn't know what it is.
So the reading scores starting out with 4.
We were at, 56% of the students were not reading at their proficient level.
That started this year.
That was starting in September. And so we're gonna do another benchmark assessment at the end of February to see. We did one in January, but we did it during our advisement time, and it was only about 30 minutes. So the students didn't have enough time to really take the assessment, so we're gonna do it again at the end of February.
You know, when we've been talking about this goes back to I think our test scores in the lower grades are really going up. So we had a kind of lull somewhere right here that we can't have that.
Right.
I mean, so now we should be, your upcoming freshmen should be.
We should start seeing that.
I'm kind of stumbling over how, we should be getting better now as they come into high school, and you shouldn't be starting off
Right,
that low. It should be, where should we be starting off?
We have seen a positive trend starting in the lower elementary grades. Once we started actually using math, using the learning continuum to hit the skills that the students were missing, we started seeing those scores rise, but they rise quicker the younger the children are. And so our younger grades have really taken off. This year we saw a really marked difference at Clear Creek for the first time. Clear Creek had kind of been a lull coming from elementary, from Gilmer Middle. We saw Gilmer Middle a couple of years ago pick up, and now it's finally starting to get to the high school. But 44% reading on grade level, that's a big uphill battle for a school. So I think this is a great step.
But we can't, and we're always bad out. We concentrate on one and we leave math out and we go back down to math school. We gotta have a balance.
And that's why we're looking at a strategy like this, like reciprocal teaching, because it can be used in the math class. And so it helps them it helps us to keep reading and math going at the same time. And that's why we chose this strategy, because we knew the effect size is great across the board. It's not just in help them in English language arts, but it also can help them in math. And when you break our data down, we did not test any of our seniors as part of the grant, because we have to show that growth over the next 2 years. So we knew our seniors were going to be not part of that data. So this is just our current 9th, 10th, and 11th grade data. And our lowest amount of students reading at the proficient grade level are our juniors. And so we're looking at growth. We'll see that growth because we've got our freshman and sophomore for a little bit longer to continue to help improve their reading and close those gaps for them over the next couple of years. And we also, we actually have Lamar County High School that come visit us next Monday because we've had such success with this with our students and teachers. Really, everybody at the high school jumped on board. There's not one teacher that's not doing this, and Lamar County is going to bring a group of their teachers next Monday to go visit our classrooms and watch them use this strategy. Do you guys have any other questions? I know that was a long presentation. I appreciate you guys letting us showcase one of our kids and teachers tonight.
I want to say an excellent presentation.
Yeah.
Very impressed with your speaking ability from a crowd. That's an honor within itself if you can do that. Okay, so great job. Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda is the next year of our strategic plan, which is parent community engagement. And our item there tonight is our academic calendars. Each of the 6 schools were asked to work with their leadership team and their school governance teams to develop a calendar to present for public vote. These calendars were based on the traditional 180 student instructional and 190 staff days. The schools were provided with state testing calendars and national holidays to work around. The only sporting or sport that we have the calendar for already is football. We've had some issues in the past with it being a bye week, not lining up with our fall break, so we did provide the schools with the football calendar with the bye week, but did not dictate that the schools had to follow that bye week. But that one affects a large number of athletes, football, cheer, band. That's a huge number of students affected there. So we did provide that. The information was sent to schools, and the principals were asked to have those turned in last week for public, so the public voting can begin this week. We're scheduled to put that on the website in the morning. We have a survey, just like we've done the last few years, and I will send a Gilmer Schools All email with a link and to all the calendars. We did label them this year. We've not labeled them by the school in the past. We did go ahead and label them this year simply because there's so much talk in the state based around tourism, and I just wanted to show that it is coming from our schools and show the ownership there. So the school names are on them this time, and they'll be posted tomorrow morning on our website, so please encourage everyone to really look at them. Don't lose focus after the first 2. Go all the way through and pick the one that you think would be the best for our students and our community. I don't know. High-performing culture and workforce. We have certified staff. Last month, our administrators were presented for renewal for the upcoming 2019 school year. This month, they are recommending certified staff for renewal to allow us to begin filling our needs with quality staff before the candidate pool shrinks. These certified staff renewals will be discussed in executive session tonight and voted on Thursday. One question that arose among the board before this meeting was, how are we voting on those? Because we've got a little bit of fruit basket turnover for next year. Our teachers are listed exactly as they are right now, recommended by their current principal, not the principal for the school that we're anticipating they will be employed next year. So for example, Ms. Burnett is recommending her current staff for renewal. All right, that brings us to operational effectiveness and construction update.
Tiffany, I told you you had 5 minutes, and if you went over, that'd be great. It really was. It was awesome. We have great students and great teachers. With this, I'll try to be quick. This Tiffany, you're on. All right, Mountain View. Both steel structures are up and the metal roofing has started. Same thing. Clear Creek has the metal structures up. The 3 structures that started the metal roofing was supposed to be delivered today. The one thing I want all of you to know is, as a community, is when you see the metal roofing, it's already started at Mountain View Elementary, it won't exactly match. That's because you're looking at schools that are 10+ years old. And so initially they're spading the old metal roofing, so it won't match initially, but in a few years it should be.
So when the community calls you,
It
tells
was
you to
ordered
put the wrong
correctly.
color on there.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
It was ordered correctly, I promise. But anyways, with Mountain View though, complete the roof, they said by next, the metal roofing by next week, start the blocking. For Clear Creek Middle, they may actually be doing both at the same time, the metal roofing as well as the blocking. We try to do the blocking afterwards, but because of time, we're moving forward. GHS Phase 2. We met last Tuesday to discuss the final plans for with the CM and the architect to be put out for bid. They have done that. It's on our website. It's also in the local paper. So it's out for bid now. The bid opening will be here March 5th, 3 p.m. With that being said, one major thing for the board to understand about this part, because of the lead time of the HVAC, and we don't have a board meeting, I think it's on, I won't say March 15th, that when they do the bid opening on March 5th, the CM has said that he will get the GMP to us by March 7th. And at that point, Dr. Daniels will need to pull the board so we can get approval on that so we can actually get it started. So that's the only caveat with that part. the scope has remained the same. And again, the phase 3 that the committee agreed to going into the classrooms with the flooring, paint, and ceiling, that will be the following summer. So that's where we are with that.
Phase 2 is just the air conditioning.
No, sir. It is, it's HVAC media center completely redone. The floor, the same flooring that we did in the commons will be extended in the hallways. All restrooms will be renovated as well, and paint and ceiling down the hallways, in addition to all the exterior.
We're just not going into the classrooms at all.
Yeah, we just,
Phase 2.
and we're going in with LET, so we don't have to relax. And the theater, forgot.
Oh, the theater,
And
yes.
parking and everything. Yes, a lot's going on with phase 2. Moving on to Clear Creek Elementary, we have to survey back. There's something called the alpha survey. We're waiting on the title report. When we get that, we'll move forward with that part. There are several other steps to make sure that it's a suitable site. We've been assured of the risk hazard assessment that it is. So I'm not concerned about that. Just steps we have to jump through with the state. College and Career Academy. Not going to move on this. We talked about the fact that Ms. Foley's looking at moving 4 or 5 classes down for next year. Trying to be strategic about this, and we'll go ahead and paint the classrooms that are going to be moved. So we have to do this twice, we'll move twice. There'll be 4 or 5 CDA classes as well as Chat Tech, and then also the UNG, the E-Corps, yeah. So that's happening again. We'll look at the grand opening of that the year after. So that's kind of where we are with it.
We plan to move our alternative school at Christmas of next year to a different portion of the building.
Right, just one. Any questions? Thank you very much.
All right, that brings us to the portion of the agenda that we amended at the very beginning, Mountain Education Charter conflicts. Vice Chairman Watkins, you wanted to discuss some issues there.
Yeah, before I start on this, I want to give Ms. Foley a compliment. She handled herself very professionally with me, board members, after the last meeting. She asked for me to talk to me. We had a meeting, a very good meeting. Dr. Allen had to be there. She did our meeting. And I just want to commend her on her professionalism and her character, showing good character, the way she handled herself after the meeting.
Yeah, I want to second off on that. I think it was from when I saw it come across my email, it was a bit of a shock to people, I think. But I don't vote up here to follow the crowd. I vote what I feel, what I see, and what I think my constituents in the first district would want. Having said that, I also had a meeting with Ms. Foley, Dr. Down, and everything was cleared up. My doubts and concerns that I had that directed my vote were cleared up by her. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I was telling Ron before the meeting, I learned a lot about Ms. Foley that I never knew. And that's on me, being on this board. I need to know people before I vote on them. So I appreciate the meeting and clearing things up, and we're ready to move forward and make this one of the best school districts in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
On this high school stuff, we got so many teachers that are working in there. And I think it's becoming a problem in high school. And I'd like to talk down with that part of the contract.
Yeah, and when this began to come into question, I looked at our employee handbook, and every staff member signs our employee handbook at the beginning of the year. It's one of the modules that the safe schools modules that all of our staff members complete. In that handbook, outside employment is generally not permitted if, one, it interferes with the employee's ability to perform his or her job with Gilmer County Charter School System. So basically, teachers especially are under contract. They do not have a set number of hours. They work a work week is a minimum of a 40-hour week. So if there's a meeting after school teachers are expected to stay for our faculty meetings. So when this concern was raised, I called the acting superintendent for Mount Ned, because the other superintendent is in the National Guard and he's called up on active duty. And so I spoke with the acting superintendent, he's Larry Shook, and he assured me that any meetings that occur at Mount Ned should come secondary to Gilmer Schools meetings. So at no point should a staff member have to leave if there were something like, for example, I think one of the concerns that you and I talked about was when we had the bus accident last year, that those staff members should not have left to go to Mount Ned. They should have stayed with our students. And, you know, any faculty meetings or any trainings we have should come first. So that was my research on that.
And on that point, Mountain Education does great service. It gives kids graduation. Never put in, it helps out, it helps out the community. I'm not here, but Gilmer County Schools got to come first. And I'm getting this, and up front, I got my wife, she works at Mount Ned. So she's down there, and they're just, at high school, because they got a high school teacher, we got 2 in the administrative office, they're working down there now. It's got to be, we come first, Mount Ned comes second, in this order. And we have complex interest, and we have, I feel like we got a complex interest on the school board. After the vote last week, after we had the vote here, Mr. Palmer, he works at Mount Ned. We had a vote last week, he went 3-2. He goes straight to Mount Ned, tells everybody down there, goes to the teachers and tells them that they need to go, be nice to this vote, and they go to the board members vote no. That's why the board member can't go into the school system and stuff. He's working for a different system, but it's in our school, it's with the same teachers and stuff. We go to board training, they tell us to, if we vote no on something, we don't get away that you gotta let it go and you get on the program. I've done that many times on this board, voting no on something. Next year I come back and vote yes for it because I saw how it worked. And I've been a few times I vote no and they come back and say, well, you run on that. But you don't. After the vote's taken, majority rule, you don't run off and try to cause problems. That's what I feel like. And I feel like it's conflict of interest. Because he's also gone into meetings down there and told them that, and this is how we got ours, this is how we can't do the executive session. It's told me that he was going to have them getting now moved into the middle school up there, about the internet, taking care of all that. He sits on this board, you cannot negotiate for mountain education. He can't be down there and negotiate and do stuff as a board member because conflict of interest. He can't say, I'm going to get this done and talk it down. I'm going to get all this moved into the school system and get everything taken care of and moved. And I feel like we got to iron it out.
If I may, Rob, along with most every one of those situations, that vote was in public. It was right here in public, right? It was not an executive session. As far as the other thing, that was information that I shared with Dr. Downs about what they would like to do. I don't care whether they do it or not. That's what they talked about. And I don't understand where you're coming from, conflict of interest. Yes, I work in Mountain Education. It is a viable source for our students, just like you said. And so, I don't know where you're getting your sources from.
Well, you work in a school system that's in our school system with the same teachers that we have. As a board member, I'm not allowed to go into the high school and mingle among the teachers and talk to them and without permission. I usually got Dr. Downs got to go with me. Now, there are all kinds of mountain education centers, correct? And my thing is, it should be that you picnics and it won't be a conflict. I see a conflict. I especially see, yeah, it's a public meeting, but to run down there, after we go through all this and run down there and say what you did after the meeting, that's what we always start.
That's not what we said. I was questioning, sure, somebody has to do with something. I was too.
All right.
I don't want to get up here on this. I go from you, law.
That brings us to policies for first reading, and these are current policies that are part of our consistent revision process. They're posted on our Gilmer Schools website for public review and comment before a second reading at the Board of Education work session in March. Subject to the feedback and public deliberations, these will be voted on the regular session in March. It's policy BCBK executive session, policy BD board development, policy BDR1 policy development, and policy IDE3 competitive interscholastic activities in grades 6 through 12. The next set of policies are for second reading, and they have been posted on our district website since our meeting in January and submitted to GSBA Legal Counsel for review. We've received no public feedback or legal recommendation, but on the third policy, which is policy IDFC community coaches, our district athletic director, Coach Rodney Walker, asked that we table that policy to allow more time for him to gather input from our head coaches and administrative team. And I think we have a meeting scheduled with our coaches at the high school in the next week or so to discuss that policy. I did include for you in your packets a copy of some of the suggestions. It's not in the revised format that will be final or even what we upload to e-boards, but just an idea of some of the changes I highlighted in yellow just so that you could see where we were going, where there was issues with that policy. But the other three, I'll recommend that they be approved with no changes on Thursday. But I would recommend us tabling policy IDFC community coaches.
Are these policies, I know Steve annual evaluations, are they being done for those community coaches previously? It says, you know, an annual evaluation will be conducted by a certified coach.
Right, and that's, yeah, and I'm not yes, they are, but not officially with a form or anything like that. We really need to shore up this policy. There have been some issues with just the whole process of the certification with GHSA. I think the original spirit of the policy was that everybody get the GHSA lay coach or community coach certification because it requires them to learn the rules of the sport, which is important if you're coaching a sport, and also the first aid piece of it. So because GHSA does not govern middle school, our middle school athletic director, who is retiring soon, felt like that shouldn't apply because GHSA doesn't govern middle school. So there were some issues with it that we need to really shore up and make it just as clear as possible in the policy. Okay. All right, that brings us to fiscal accountability and the purchasing policy expenditures are there just simply for your information. There's not any that require board approval. And then the next thing is nutrition.
No, she can't understand it, it's not.
Don't worry, y'all have a treat on Thursday.
Yes.
It didn't go right today.
It didn't go right today. Our bananas, we don't get produce until Tuesday, and so our bananas won't be ripe until Thursday, and it involves bananas, so. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. First of all, did y'all see the paper? See the great coverage that we got on Mountain View celebrating, thank you, Mark, He came to visit Mountain View Elementary. I got in touch with him and let him know we were doing a big Super Bowl celebration with our menus. And Miss Jones, who is cafeteria manager, bought this poster on her own. I mean, it's a wall-size poster that looks like the stadium, looks like Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And who did your photography? You had somebody there that took pictures all day long. Michelle?
Yes.
So any
Michelle.
child that wanted to have their picture made in front of this got their pictures made, and then they put them on Facebook. And of course, he had permission to, to put these children on there. This happened to be pre-K when he got there. And Valerie had pom-poms and footballs and things on the serving line. So of course, the little boys mainly chose the footballs to hold for their pictures, and the girls chose the pom-poms. So it was highly successful. And we did homemade Rice Krispie treats.
I'll wait until half.
Oh, so it was our first time this year, and I think our people were a little bit afraid of doing them, but, they turned out great. And I'm just gonna say, y'all, I was really surprised. We had pizza, and we had, we were supposed to have salad. But what happened was, we were out of school on the day we had our produce delivery, and Super Bowl took over. So they didn't want to come deliver to us for produce because they had too many accounts downtown for Super Bowl. So we had to substitute cooked vegetables, which was broccoli. And they love broccoli and cheese. And they had the fruit cocktail for the fruit. There were so many children that stood there. So they put the piece of pizza on their tray and the Rice Krispie treat. And I can't tell you how many kids asked what that was. They've never seen a homemade Rice Krispie treat. Wow. They expected a little thing.
My grandmother.
Yeah, so I'm just educating you. We have a different population that we're serving now. It's going to become a regular on our menu. So,
They're really good.
Okay, that's a good. Valerie will jump on that. Miss Jones is she's the bomb. She just looks forward to doing all that, and she always pilots all that stuff for us. Speaking of which, Mountain View had their health inspection today, and they got 100. So we're 3 out of 3 have gotten 100. I would imagine the other 3 are going to be reviewed this week. So high school and both middle schools, get ready. The managers know they'll probably be, and so then we'll recognize them all next week. Believe it or not, I'm doing this all before I get to financial. It's already time to start planning seamless summer. This is only February, but in March, we're going to have our first organizational meeting. So please publicize that. I'm going to contact all the people that volunteered last year to try and get them to come, but we need to know, they need to know we're going to start organizing, because the first day is going to be on June 5th. So it'll be here before you know it, and it'll still be at Gilmer Middle School. So we had 6 sites last year, and we hope to have at least that many, if not more. It's very important for our school system, for our community, for children to be able to eat in the summertime. And then one more thing before we get to the financial report. March is March 4th through 8th is National School Breakfast Week. And school breakfast was started by USDA in 1989 to improve the awareness, the importance of eating breakfast. It's definitely documented that students perform better on tests, they attend school better, and they're less disruptive if they eat breakfast. Now, I'm not saying it has to be a school breakfast, but since we started doing breakfast in the classroom, we are serving an awful lot of children, and I hope y'all are seeing results, positive results associated with that. With it, we're going to be introducing some new menu items for breakfast, and you will be tasting one of them on Thursday. And it involves bananas, so y'all can let me know how you like it. Another thing that we'll be bringing you on the menu is a chocolate chip muffin, and they love the blueberry ones, but wait till they get the chocolate chip muffin. And we're going to have fruit and yogurt smoothies. And I'm surveying students to come up with 2 more additional items that are their favorites to put on that week. So if you can stop by one of the schools for breakfast, please do during that week. We'd love to have you. Now, for the finances. The good news is we have a profit, which is hard to do in December because it's such a short month. As you can see, our revenues exceeded our expenditures by $5,245.42. We only had 16 serving days, and if you look at the lunch participation sheet that you got, it's kind of tiny that goes across. It shows you that we served 16 days at the very bottom in January. I went ahead and already filed our claim for January. And you can see the difference in the claim amount from last year, it was $135,000, and this January it was $179,000. So part of that is attributed, if you look at the top, it's the lunch participation, and you can see the prompt EPS lunch participation increased to 72%, which is huge, because at the first of the school year, they started out at 59%. EES increased to 74. Well, they are high. They didn't increase, but anyway, 74% is big. Mountain View raised theirs up 1%. They came up to 71%. And Gilmer Middle is hanging in there at 75, 76%. Clear Creek has increased to 58%. They came up 6 percentage points, which is huge. We're really working to get that program up. And the high school also increased by 2%. They went to 50%. But look at the breakfast. Primary, elementary, and Gilmer Middle all increased their breakfast participation, which in January, we essentially missed a day because when we had the late start, a lot of our kids did not eat that day. Even though we provide breakfast for them when they come in, we lost a lot of kids that day, just because we started school later. So it's kind of a little bit misleading, but February is off to a good start. We've got lots of new menu items, and wait till March comes. Your week that you've been invited to eat at a school, March 18th, right through.
It's a board meeting week.
And one of you is being invited to some school to eat lunch, and if I can possibly join you, I will. But it's a regular, typical menu. But I look forward to you. Anytime you want to come and join me for lunch, I would love to. Are there any questions? Wait till Thursday. What did you say? Oh, Coco. You know what? Valerie's going to want to do that. We have a manager's meeting tomorrow. I think I'll suggest that. I mean, it's just as easy to do those as it is. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and now our budget update from our Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Campbell.
Good evening. You have your financial summary, and this is for December. Our 50% of the year is complete. Our total revenues for the year-to-date period are $25,512,286, and that is 63% of our budgeted revenues. Our local tax revenues today are $14,556,866, and that's 79.46% of our budgeted revenues, tax revenues. Our total expenditures for this year-to-date period, $20,634,941, are 47.92%. So we're actually tracking about 2% under our budgeted expenditures. Most of those are our timing differences here
revenues over expenditures for the 6 months is $4,877,345. Again, due to us collecting more revenues, mostly being our tax revenues coming in the fall, leaving us with a fund balance of $25,748,463. Compared to last year at this time, we had $26,123,848. Usually December is our high point of our fund balance because the tax revenues have come in rapidly, and going forward, our expenditures will outperform our revenue.
That's very good. We don't have $5,000 last year. A lot more money.
Right. When you look at our year-to-date comparative, you can see our tax revenue, we have collected $14,556,000. Last year, we had only collected $13,703,000. So our tax revenues are a little ahead of this time last year. So.
We also haven't gotten a lot of the bills for the adding on schools either,
Yes.
so. Remember, that is all fun balance. Yeah.
And that is, we did budget about $2 million. We have spent about $1 million, but the timing of those expenditures could be more or less. So we will see in the next coming months. Our 2015 eSPLOST expenditures, for the eSPLOST to date, we have spent $12,010,772. And the expenditures for the month was $103,422. And that is all due to the GHS renovation. We basically had a construction draw for our project and a small amount for support to purchasing furniture that was budgeted with that. Our local capital projects, we have spent for the month $259,405, and that is on the Clear Creek and Mountain View addition. Our collections today are $13,456,958. For the month of December, we collected $413,595, and that is a change over the previous month, an increase of $23,800, and a change from last year with an increase of $30,240. So, looking good right now. The last thing, as part of the financial presentation, is our quarterly presentation of our school activity accounts. And you see a summary there listing by school their cash balance, and the total is $543,634. And our revenues were $584,929, and the expenditures $478,181, which leaves us revenue over expenditures of $106,000. And this, we are changing our software for our schools. So next quarter you will see this presented in a different way that will probably be more user-friendly and reading when you look at the details. You'll be able to look at it more clearly. Right now you're looking at it, you see the income, and then you have to subtract the expense for each activity. So, anybody have any questions? Ronald, you moved.
I don't have any further comments beyond what we've already discussed tonight, so that brings us to public participation. And as the final agenda item at board work sessions, according to policy BCBIR1, it is the intent of the board to allow input solely on agenda items from those in attendance. All presentations to the board are to be brief and are intended for the board to hear comments or concerns without taking action. All other time limits and topic restrictions remain in effect. Is there anyone here for public participation? Okay. All right, I recommend a motion to enter executive session.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second. All voted for.
There will be no action at the end of executive session tonight.
Somebody's gonna have to buy now.
No, he watched a video one day we had, they go drinking and
Do I need to sign? You did? Okay, good.
There's really no see, look at you, y'all be shy.
Hey, Carl.
As far as
Lonnie, I will have a treat for you on Thursday too.
Uh-oh.